I'm Film Commissioner Tim Clark, filling in for Cindy Abbott-Litro this month. We've got some incredible guests today on Behind the Camera. Some really, really cool people to Buffalo in Western New York. They come from amazing families, and you're going to hear that story today. We're here with Addison Henderson, director of his latest film, G.O.D Givers of Death, and we're actually at the premiere of it at the Transit Drive-In in Lockport, New York. But before we get into that film, we're going to talk a little bit about an announcement that was made recently about he and his partner, LeRoi Johnson from Western New York here, and a very special project that they're going to talk about. LeRoi Johnson is the brother of one of the most famous international music superstars, but a Buffalo native, Rick James. And fellas, tell us a little bit about that project. Maybe Addison, you could start and tell us what that's all about.
About a little over a year ago, I was in the editing room and desperately in need of some finishing funds. Mm-hmm. And happenstance and have it, I'm at the LA Fitness and Leroy is there.
In Buffalo?
In Buffalo.
Okay.
I'm at the LA Fitness in Buffalo, it's, coming out of the steam room and I see Leroy and he's like, "Man, you look like your dad." And I was like, "Leroy," I haven't seen you in forever. And he's like, "Yeah." And he was like, we started talking about the forgotten city and all that. Yeah. And we just started to rekindle the friendship and started talking. And I said, "Hey, I got this film that I did here in Buffalo. Why don't you come down to D Post and take a look at what we have?" And he came and looked at some clips and he said, "So what do you need from me?" And I said, "Well, some money would be nice." And so we talked for weeks and weeks, and then next thing you know, he wrote a check so we can finish the movie. But it didn't stop there. I kept going up to his office. And we started to talk about our family history and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
And he was getting inducted into the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame. And he said, "Why don't you put together this short documentary for me?" And so I started working with him, doing that, spending a lot of hours with him and talking. And, for over 15 years, I've been wanting to tell the story of Rick James and Leroy. And we started talking. I started writing. I started building. And Leroy would give me notes. He would take it and say, "Hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" And next thing you know, a whole year has passed, and me and Leroy put together a miniseries, a 7-episode miniseries as it stands right now, of the story tentatively titled Brother's Keeper. It's a story of Rick James, international superstar, and LeRoi Johnson, internationally known painter and philanthropist, lawyer, and just an overall great man.
Well, and Leroy, that has to be something, because this is not the first time Hollywood producers have come to you and said, "Hey, we want the family's involvement on your brother," right?
No, I've been talking with some producers since Rick's death.
Right.
I've been presented with different projects, and we've talked, and it just didn't feel right, because I feel as though it has to be a narrative that I'm totally involved in, and it has to be totally real. It can't be a film that's like all the films out there. So, what I'll do is I'll look at the producer, I'll look at their work, and the question is, first of all, is their work of a certain nature, mm-hmm. and does it fit with what I'm trying to do? And when I first saw Addison's first film, Forgotten City, when I first saw that, that was our neighborhood, our life.
Oh, sure, yeah. Great
but
movie.
Done in a certain way. But I felt good about that film. And the next question was whether or not, for me, was what else was he doing?
Right.
And I followed him behind the scenes. That he didn't know I was following him, looking at him, but I was looking at him. And then when we, as he said, when we joined together and he did this little short bio on me for the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame. It basically told the kind of story, and we could work together the way that I thought would work best. Because the main thing I was looking for was a producer who had the quality of production and understood dialogue, understood what we're trying to get across.
And understood the Johnson family, really.
Yes. And our families go back to the early 50s.
Right.
So I mean, his father had been involved in Rick's funeral, my funeral. I mean, there's stories there in terms of his father. So I mean, I knew him before he was born.
So, a lot of people don't realize this, but you're much more than Rick's brother, Rick James's brother. You were his best friend. You were his manager. You managed the family business, basically, Rick James and Mary Jane Girls and,
Mary Jane Productions.
Mary
basically.
Jane Productions.
Yeah.
But, all the other musical acts, too. You were really along for the ride, which is really an incredible part of the story that you want to tell.
I don't think that there's anybody out there who can tell the story the way I can tell it or knows it the way. They can't.
Right.
I think I bring the glue that's missing. You have a lot of people with pieces here, pieces there. Interesting stories, but a lot of the stories I've heard, and even the producers, before they come to me, they've gone on the internet and they've picked up these stories, and this is what they want to tell. And I'm looking at them like, the story's not real. The real story is better than anything out there on the internet. But you have to have somebody you can sit down with, talk to them, and have them feel what you feel.
Right.
They have to have the same passion that I have. Now, I know that Addison has the passion for Buffalo.
Yes, he
and
does.
he also has the passion for the truth, and he also has the tools to produce a great film. So, I mean, it's a natural fit for the two of us.
Addison, what do you think? Now, you grew up listening to Rick James and knowing the family and being involved in Buffalo and the community. What does it mean to you to have that story to tell? Because you are basically a storyteller, a great storyteller, incidentally. But, this is Buffalo. This is it. This is big. This is an international superstar, as I said earlier, but it's also a story of a kid from Buffalo who, two kids from Buffalo, you're right, two kids from Buffalo who take this thing to a crazy level.
Right. And there may be, these generational gaps, but LeRoi Johnson, Rick James, I'm them.
Yeah,
I'm
are.
a kid from Buffalo. I used to live in the Willard Park Projects. I lived in the Nash House. And my father's church is the Underground Railroad. So that history that they have is embedded in me as well. And so for me, it was like, this is the moment that really can change things, and I can actually tell the story the way it's supposed to be told, not a caricature, but real life, the real understanding of how things went. And when I was sitting with Leroy, I was like, now this is a perfect partner, because I'm not all about this big time ego. I want to learn from him. I want to learn from those around me, and I want to take and create with Leroy the best story we possibly can. And I think that for what we've done and sketched out this mini series with like a 30-page document of what it is, I think that you are going to hear you're going to see some great stories, and you're going to be like, is this, he says it all the time, people say, is this even real? No, it's real. This is the real story, and so as we're telling it, it's just going to be so impactful. And to be from Buffalo and to be able to tell this story, it feels like it's destiny, and it's a dream come true. It just feels like it was supposed to happen.
Well, and it's interesting, too, I think, because you're an artist, and the creative side of this is such an important part of it. But then, how do you take it to the next level, the business side? How do you get it to the studios? How do you get it? How do you get a studio behind it? How does that all happen? Because it's a journey, right? I mean, it's not easy to do. A lot of people say, hey, making the movie is probably the easiest part of making a movie. It's raising the money, it's getting the Hollywood gossip, it's getting all of the buzz behind it. Tell us about that process.
Well, first off, you put in the work, right? And so I've been, and Leroy knows he has major connections in Hollywood, and I've been building relationships for close to 20 years now in Hollywood, working with my late great friend Chadwick Boseman, and doing a lot of things on my own, even to get to this point in time. And so I've been able to have some acumen where I can go out and I can talk to people and I can build some hype around it. And and what I think is becoming clear is that we are the people to tell this story the right way. If you want to do it the right way, you're gonna come through us and tell this story. And that's what we're going for, and that's why we created such a compelling miniseries. And it's not just about Rick and all the other stuff that you know about. It's about real life situations. How was it growing up in Buffalo? How did you become a success? And even LeRoi in law school, Georgetown Law, coming from Buffalo, and everything that he's done, and connecting these and weaving these two storylines is something that's very compelling. I think that if somebody doesn't pick this up, they're just going to be they're absolutely out of their mind.
No, I totally agree, and it's funny because Rick James we know, and he's the famous front man of this whole story. But really, Leroy, you've led a very interesting life yourself. First of all, you're an artist, a painter. You're a musician. You were inducted actually into the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, not only for your work with with your brother, but also with your own musical talent and so forth. And then, of course, you're a really noted attorney in Buffalo. Went to Canisius College, then went to Georgetown Law School. I mean, what a life you've led. I mean, you got to look back and say, holy smokes, this was a crazy ride.
I like to look forward as opposed to looking back. I use that.
True.
I use that as experience, but
but it's great.
There's some interesting
story.
things.
It's a hell of a compelling story.
A lot I did before Rick, but Rick enhanced the things that I did. After
now, were
that.
you done with law school when?
Oh
Rick's
yes,
career...
I was out 5 years before Rick. Actually more than that. I was out about 7 years before I went with Rick.
So when he hit stardom, and you were there, was it an easy decision for you to take the reins? Because first of all, you knew as an attorney the money stuff and the crazy stuff and the contract stuff. I know you're an entertainment attorney, so you know this stuff.
Well, I know it now, but then my background was in business. But I had done a lot in entertainment before I even got with Rick. I had done promotion, had done shows and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I actually was involved in supporting Rick straight through the picture. So it wasn't like I didn't know what was going on. The question was getting my feet down and getting in a position where I could take over a superstar, and that took some doing, but it didn't take long.
What was the moment? Do you recall that you thought to yourself, this talent, this brother of mine, this friend of mine, this guy by the name of Rick James, is a superstar? Did it happen overnight, or was it a gradual thing?
Well, let me tell you about that process.
Yeah.
You don't have time to think about whether somebody's a star or a superstar.
Well, when you're selling records like that, I gotta believe
but
you know.
To
right?
me, there was always another level, and to Rick, it was the same. It was, let's do the best that we can where we are, and take it to the next level. So where we were at superstars, if there's another level, that's where I wanted to go. So I really never thought about Rick being a superstar. All I thought about is him being my brother and doing the number one thing, the best that I could do for Rick. And that was my thinking. I never really thought of him as a superstar because while you're working, you just don't think about those things. We're hanging out with Robin Williams and Kiss and Rod Stewart and David Bowie and that.
Wow.
And in that genre,
Sure.
basically they're all the same. They're all stars. They're all famous. So you kind of get lost in that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to think that I'm going to take him to that next level. So that was my thinking. I wasn't thinking about him being a star. I never thought about that.
Well, what I always liked about Rick James, and it's very evident in both of you too, is that you have this fondness for home. This Buffalo and Western New York. This is what made you. It created you, and it's part of you. It'll never leave you. And I don't think it ever left Rick. And so the G.O.D. thing, I know you had this involvement, Givers of Death. That had to be a pretty cool project for you too, right? I mean...
Well, it was, but the project was almost complete
Right.
when I got there and when I saw it. And I love the quality of the filming and the cinematography and the acting. And everything. There was nothing for me that I really didn't like about the film.
Yeah.
So it was an easy something easy for me to say, okay, let me get involved in this. You know, if it was horrible, I would have told him and walked away.
He'd have been like, "Oh, buddy."
Yeah.
He would have
okay.
never called me again.
Yeah, right. I told my secretary, "Is that him again?" Yeah, I'm at lunch.
So, Addison, give us a few lines about what the movie's about and what you found in your hometown that made it special.
Well, you know, I had this vision that I was going to do a movie about a pandemic and about a hitman trying to find peace during the apocalypse, all the while being chased by a detective seeking revenge. And so I was working on the film 21 Bridges. I had the idea right before we went to filming, and I said, you know, I'm going to write this and I'm going to go home and shoot it. There's no place else I'm going to shoot this movie. And so I'm sitting there on set, looking at the monitors and sitting down at the computer, just writing, tapping away, day and night, day and night, day and night, day and night. We were doing night shoots during that time. And I was just going. I would get off set, go home, have a drink, keep writing some more, you know, and it was just spilling out of me. And it went through revisions, obviously. Sure. Chad sat with me and he gave me some notes and I took some notes. But it was really about, like, I could see it, the places that I wanted to shoot here. When I was writing, I was like, yeah, we're going to use this, we're going to use that, this is going to be great, you know. And so when I came to Buffalo with the script in hand, no money, I was like, you know what, I just started location scouting because I was like, I'm going to get the money. There's nothing going to stop me. I'm going to make this project. I'm going to get the money. And that's exactly how I feel about what me and Leroy are doing right now. My heart is in it. And, you know, today, here at this premiere, it was a tough day for me because I knew for a fact that Chadwick would be here if he was still on this plane with us, right?
I know, yeah.
And then, you know, it was a really tough day for me. But then I realized that, you know, he's here with me in spirit. And this new project, this Brothers Keepers project, you know, it's Leroy and his brother, right? And now Chad was my brother, not by blood, but by spirit.
No,
and so I'm dedicating all of my efforts and everything I'm doing here with Leroy in remembrance of Chadwick Boseman.
You know, it's funny when Chadwick and you were working on Marshall, there you could just see the special bond, but you could also see Chadwick's real caring spirit of learning all about Buffalo. Walking through the Nash House with you and the Colored Musicians Club and the Michigan Avenue Baptist Church, you could see it in him. It was like the kindred spirit thing, and it was really an amazing moment, and I was privy to that in my job, so thanks for that. Listen, we had probably the coolest guests that we've had ever, at least that I can see. LeRoi Johnson, Addison Henderson, these guys are great. I want to thank Trent Bowling also for setting this up. It was very, very cool of him to do, and thank you. We'll all see you on the next episode of Behind the Camera.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.